1, 2, 3, funk it.
Hi everyone, I'm Hannah Daly. Today we're joined by Melanie Martinez, and we're so excited to have you here and to talk about your new album. At the beginning of this era, to kind of kick it off, you released a statement that was "Crybaby is dead." Why did you feel it was important to distinctly separate your past work from this new era?
Just because it's a new character. I've been working under and creating under that character for the last 10 years, so you know, it just feels like an appropriate time to start fresh. And the last time I started fresh was when I was, 18 or 19 when I first started with Crybaby. So it was a huge shift for me to now have to embody this whole other energy, and it's exciting. It's really exciting to start new and to transform and to grow.
So is there any connection story-wise from Crybaby universe to Hades? Nothing. Do you miss her?
Yeah, of course, I miss her. She's always going to be a part of me, but I'm excited for Circle's journey.
You really build these intricate, visual, detailed worlds around all of your albums. How does that process start for you? Does it look different every time? And then how did you begin constructing this world for Hades?
Well, I kind of just started with this concept of wanting to make a dystopian record and a utopian record. That was like the first idea and kind of thought that was seeded. So I would come into the studio every day, and some days I would feel like I wanted to write about more heavy, intense topics. So those would be the dystopian days. And some days I would come into the studio and I'd feel really light and kind of euphoric and want to express I guess, what I would think would be involved within a utopian society, which honestly was way harder than doing the dystopian record. Because the dystopian record, I mean, we could just look around. It's so easy to be like, the world is bleak and there's so much to discuss, So that's kind of where it started. And then over time, the character, Circle, came about when I started writing the kind of storyline after writing enough songs for the dystopian record. So Hades was kind of like halfway through already. And I was kind of sitting thinking, okay, I really need to kind of attach all these songs together and string them through in a storyline, and started to figure out what that looked like. And then I ended up writing a script for the film that I'm working on called Hades, same title, and Circle's the main character. So it's kind of all combined.
Yeah, so were you working on the album in conjunction with the script for the film, so they kind of fed off of each other?
Yeah, definitely.
That's really cool. I'm glad you mentioned the difference between writing the Utopia album versus Hades. Is it called Utopia, or is that just...
No,
okay,
I'm just not sharing the name yet.
Gotcha, all right. Do you normally write with other people, or lyric-wise, melody-wise, is it just you?
So my most recent and favorite collaborator is CJ Barron, and he's like my best friend as well, and it's always exciting working with him. He's the best, and he produces, and I write lyric and melody. I, for this album, didn't write with any co-writers, and sometimes in the past I have, here and there. I think it just depends on what I'm feeling, but I was really excited about these topics, and I just kind of was like writing very quickly. I felt really tuned in and tapped in, and I wrote both of these records, Hades and the Utopian one as well, like actually fairly quickly in comparison to my other records. I think I was just really excited and my antennas were out, so to speak, and yeah, it came pretty naturally.
Can you talk about some of the things going on in the world that inspired Hades?
Yeah, I mean, oh God, I can go through track by track. So Garbage is kind of like a general summary, and it kind of sets up this dystopian kind of world and kind of asks a question of how can we move forward and build something beautiful of this garbage that we've been given. And the second track, Is This a Cult, is kind of referring to everything being a cult, whether it's like kind of health groups or politics, religion, sports even, like literally anything you could think of. And how there's always like some scary patriarchal entity at the top that needs to be overthrown. And then after that is possession, and possession is about abusive relationship dynamics, power and control, and how that can look like love and be disguised as love. And so many people go through like, narcissistic, abusive relationships, and I thought it was important to talk about that kind of dynamic. And then after that is White Boy with a Gun.
That's my favorite one.
Thanks. And that one is kind of about like performative allyship. I think it was important to talk about that. At first I was writing it from this perspective of like, men who kind of use feminist language to try to get with women. And then at a certain point I realized it could be about anything. It could be about like corporations using verbiage to sell more products to marginalized communities. It could be, about like white feminism and how it's not intersectional and doesn't include everyone. And there's so much that kind of that song encapsulates. And then Disney Princess, which is about a young rising star in entertainment, and as a woman, how that can feel really defeating to have to be commodified and exploited and to not have a good support system and what that can look like. And then Grudges is about feminine rage, wanting to kind of express that cathartic, I think it's really common for women to be walked all over and really hard for us to set boundaries and stand up for ourselves and kind of show our teeth a little bit without being called a bitch. And I think as someone who leans on that side of things, where I've like just always been like walked all over, taken advantage of, and it was like just such a constant theme in my life, I really wanted to write a song that embodied this kind of newfound, like, I don't give a fuck energy, even though I very much give a fuck, and it's very hard to do that. Monopoly Man, self-explanatory. It's about billionaires and how they're ruining the planet. Avoidant, which is one of my favorites. Avoidant is about a different kind of relationship dynamic that I've also encountered a lot, which is like, especially when you date men, I feel like there's a lot of societal pressure for them to not have their emotional net as open as we are. Vulnerability it's harder for them to express. And I think that it can lead towards running away from problems, and instead of working together, it feels easier to kind of just be avoidant, essentially. Yeah. Monolith, which is also one of my favorites. That one makes me cry every time. It's just such a like outpouring of emotion. I think it's my best attempt to express what it feels like to be an artist, and the amount of like just giving and outpouring of like love through music and wanting to connect people together and help people through whatever it is that they're going through, and being an open ear in a way, or creating like a soundtrack to their life so that they can have someone there that tells them that they're not alone, and how lonely on the other side it can be when like no one's really there for you. Weight Watchers, when I wrote that song, I was struggling with like weight gain and trying to understand, I guess, what it was that I wanted to do. I was like kind of struggling seeing the rabbit hole happen in front of me of all these products that are pushed your way, like, here's the next blah, blah, blah that you should do, or the next blah, 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 or whatever, like so many different products and things that are sold to you when you're in that kind of state of mind and you're questioning your body and how you look. And I just thought it was an important song to write, and I don't think anyone goes unscathed in that way. I wrote The Plague to essentially compare the plague to COVID. I thought it was an important one to write about.
Yeah, it's so biblical too.
Yeah. Batshit Intelligence is kind of an anthemic song about corruption and I guess like anger towards corruption. Gutters about the houselessness crisis. I thought that was also important to reflect. It's kind of rare for people to tackle a topic like that in music, because a lot of times people want to talk about, whatever, like light things in music that feel good and are fun and you can party to and dance to and have a good time. But I do think that it's important as well to try to create melodies and sonics around important topics to kind of open up new perspective to people.
So when building this album around the ideas of a dystopian society and pulling from real life, did you go in with like almost a checklist of these points that you wanted to address, or did one just like flow after the other?
I kind of wrote titles first. I usually do that. So I'll write titles and then I'll think of how can I write about this theme or topic to the best of my ability using that title as kind of the analogy, or I would say like, how am I gonna flip this to be able to express this topic? And you know, sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't, but the theme stays the same. So I knew, for example, like I have a song called Hell's Front Porch, and I knew that I wanted to write about the climate crisis. And my first attempt was writing a song called like Earl Grey or something, and I didn't like it very much, and it wasn't the best that I can do with that topic. And it being such an important topic for the record, I was like, I need to redo this. So then I ended up writing Hell's Front Porch, which was way more fitting, and I love that song. So yeah, there's like moments like that where like the theme will be really important, and I know I have to write about it, but sometimes the actual title and the song itself like changes and moves into different vibe. Uncanny Valley is one of my favorite songs on the record. Uncanny Valley was the one song that I worked on with Malay, who is also incredible, and it was such a fun session. And I just remember feeling so overwhelmed with excitement because it just felt so fresh and different for me, but it still kind of encapsulated everything that I talk about, but just in this kind of new era of like AI beauty standards and how that's kind of gone off the rails. Vatican, very important song. I grew up Christian, so I respect, you know, all people's faith and their desire for religion and coming together, creating community. There's a lot of times that organized religion can kind of weaponize spirituality and you know, abuse their power within those structures. And a lot of the times there's so much shame that is spread among the LGBTQ youth. And I just wanted to write a song about it, and that's my best attempt at it. So.
And that like pure desire that you were just saying to find community and find gathering is so sadly like easy to exploit.
Yep, exactly.
And that's why.
Yeah. Exactly. Chat Room is about online bullying and just thinking about how when I was younger we had like AIM and like MySpace and stuff, you know, and that was like where we experienced like the most kind of, I guess, online bullying, but most of it was like in person. So I can't even imagine what kids are going through now with social media. It's like a whole other ball game. And then my last song on the record is Last Two People on Earth, which is kind of like, I wanted to write just a love song amongst the chaos.
Yeah.
I thought it was important to end on some sort of transformational note, especially leading into the next record, which is the Utopian record.
And I feel like that's why this stuff matters, is because at the heart of all of the chaos and darkness is still people.
Yep, still people
connecting and
loving, absolutely.
Yeah. So, like you just went through, and like even when you listen to the album, it's very clear that it's all grounded in real life stuff. Can the same be said for the Utopia album?
It's hard, you know, like it's so hard to like, I want to believe and imagine that it's like your idealism kind of kicks in and you're like, oh yes, like we can absolutely create a better future, but how do we get there? You know, that's still the question, is how do we get there? And I definitely don't have the answers. And a lot of the songs that I wrote for the Utopian album were just pure blissful moments that I experienced, and expressing that each day as you know, it came. Because there's so much beauty in the world, like there's so much to be grateful for, and human connection is palpable and potent and juicy. And that's the best word I can describe it as. It's just juicy. Like there's so much love, there's so much joy. Yeah, so there's a lot of things that are very positive, and that album reflects that, but who knows how we get there.
Right. That is the question. Do you have a favorite song on Hades?
I have so many favorite songs on
Hades.
Hades.
Top 3?
Top 3 is so hard.
Is that even harder?
Oh my God, it's so hard.
What's your favorite today?
Today, okay. That's a good question. I go back and forth between Garbage and Uncanny Valley, those two. Today.
Why?
I think Garbage is a perfect summary of the album, and that was the first session that I tapped into this other part of my vocal tone that was really special for me to kind of feel out and experiment with. I was able to utilize it in other songs, like the Plague chorus, which is like also one of my favorite choruses on the record, but that song Garbage just kind of encapsulates everything. I love it. And then Uncanny, I mean, I don't know, it just feels like dirty and sexy and like raw.
Uncanny valley, hard, never enough, give you all my love.
I don't have many songs that make me feel that way when I write. I think it was a really special one, and just a special session. Like I remember like buzzing, you know? I was like, me and Malay were looking at each other like, oh my God, like this is such a good one. So I'm really excited about that and for people to hear that one. Yeah.
So as an artist, why do you favor this approach of building these worlds and mythologizing them and really digging into characters rather than the more, like, I guess, straightforward traditional approach that other artists will do of just like singing about their lives in a really direct way? What do you gain from this approach as an artist?
I just think it's more fun. It's actually just that simple for me. Like, I could absolutely write an album about my life and different experiences that I have on a day-to-day. And in some ways I do, you know, like some of the songs on the record are very personal to me. But I just think it's fun to create in all aspects. When making music, I don't just ever just write songs. I'm always thinking about the visual element, the storyline, you know, how does it fit into the entire picture, not just like the tiny little fraction, which is like a song, you know? There's so much other stuff that I'm thinking about, and it's exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you see a world in which you ever would go the more traditional route of just being really autobiographical?
I mean, I'm sure maybe one album in my future, it'll be more like that, but I don't even know what that looks like. It doesn't really take any extra effort for me to write the way that I do. It's kind of just like the way that I write. You know what I mean? Like, I don't really think about it much. It just kind of is. Like, it's like if I have an idea, I just want to materialize it, and it'll drive me crazy if I don't. Like, if I have this like concept in my head or this story or something and I don't write it, I would be miserable. So I just have to get it out. And so as long as that keeps happening, I think I'm going to be probably doing it this way for my whole life. I don't know.
Do the songs, like in any indirect way, the songs that you have put out and worked on, do they in an indirect way feel autobiographical at all?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I mean, I could name a few songs on the record. I mean, for example, like Weight Watchers, like that's such a personal song. So personal. If you listen to the lyrics, it's exact. And avoidant also. I mean, there's quite a lot in that way. And then there's some that are more exaggerated, you know, that kind of take maybe a little bit of my experience and then kind of, I guess, amplify it for the story and for the character. Like Disney Princess, for example. Like, I understand what it feels like to be a woman in entertainment, but I'm also not someone who's taken that sort of path, and I haven't experienced a lot of that kind of downward spiral in that kind of way, but I have friends who have. I've seen it, you know. A lot of artists struggle with drug addiction and don't have a good support system around them, and I'm lucky that I do have a good support system around me. But I think writing about the extremes and amplifying and talking about those stories, I think, is way more important, you know. And then I'm trying to think of other ones. Oh, Monolith also is directly personal experience and my own feelings about what it feels like to be in the spotlight and to be an artist. So yeah, there are a lot.
I just have some like fun, like non-album questions now. So I, as someone who like spent a lot of my teen years on Tumblr, I definitely like associate you as in a group of artists that like take me back to that time. And it just celebrated its 19th anniversary. Do you have any feelings about that, or?
God, I mean,
nostalgia.
I do have a lot of nostalgia for sure. I miss it, you know?
Yeah.
I kind of want to make a Tumblr. I would love to. But there's so many ads on Tumblr now, and I wish they would change that. That's the only reason why I haven't gotten back on it. But I love the format, and I love being able to create, you know, a layout. And again, it's just such a creative platform.
Yeah,
so
that was so fun.
Yeah, it was really fun.
If we could get a Tumblr renaissance.
Absolutely, that would be amazing.
Yeah. Who are your favorite artists right now?
I'm listening to a lot of like Big Thief and Mitski and a lot of different, I mean, my favorite artist of all time is like Fiona Apple, but a lot of Big Thief just like on repeat, so yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us, Melanie. We loved having you.
Thank you for having me.